I want to start kind of very excited about the work that the guys have put in so far. Very proud of what we've done, happy with the progress that we've made. Kind of looking forward to getting a chance to see a new opponent next week and see where we are. Good.
What's it like, Ron, you guys have so many kind of different pieces up front that you can move around with the staff, kind of going over personnel packages and figuring out, the best way to use all those guys?
Yeah, it's always a conversation, as far as what each guy does best, even within each call. Potentially could we move this guy here for this call, but you certainly don't want him only there for that call, so then you need to have some complementary looks off that and a few different things guys can do from each location. But it helps having good guys up front and gives you flexibility, so that's always a good thing.
Watching these camp practices, you can sometimes tell when a guy is different because even from us on the sideline, he starts popping routinely. David seems like he's getting into that category pretty early, even as a rookie Bailey. What have you seen from him that makes him look like it's just different?
I think Dave's similar things to what he's shown in college, right? He has the ability to use his speed, his quickness, and his power in a variety of different situations. Can certainly get in the backfield, run and pass, and be effective doing that based on his athleticism and power.
Has there been any moment for you yet when you've gone back and watched the All-22 or the practice film and you kind of sat back and said, wow, with him or anything like that?
There's certainly plays you're like, that's what we thought it was going to be, and it's good to see it, So we expected that from him.
Has he looked better against the run than maybe even you expected?
I thought he would play well. I thought he had the ability to do it. I thought sometimes there's different ways you can play up front, and it was just a matter of more training him how we wanted him to play up front. I certainly thought he had the ability to do that, and he's done a good job with that. I'm happy with that.
With Aaron Glenn calling plays, what has been your dynamic with him, and what have you been able to learn from him so far?
My dynamic with him is certainly just assisting him, in terms of that role, still getting the guys ready every day and doing everything I can from that and trying to help, make sure our systems are clean, systems are in place, and everything's well run in that regard. And then as far as what I've learned from him, I mean, he and I go back for a while, so there's not one thing this year necessarily, but it's just more continuing to have football conversations. Like the thing with AD, I just enjoy the back and forth discussions that we have and just the football conversations. He's a passionate football guy, and I enjoy those talks and those conversations that we have. Probably how I'd highlight that. Yeah.
He doesn't want you to necessarily be him. Through knowing his defense the way you do, has it helped you kind of come up with a defensive style that's more yourself in certain ways based on how you learn from him?
I kind of think of it that way, in that there are certain general principles of defense that he and I see very similarly and always have. There's certainly different ways you can solve a problem within the defensive scheme. And maybe I know in my head there's one or two different ways we get into this. I got a pretty good idea of which of those two he'd prefer typically, you know what I mean? So it kind of helps in that regard.
Dow Jackson, been getting some run here with Sweat out and some of the guys in front. What have you seen from him so far?
Yeah, a lot of strength, a lot of size and strength, which is what we were hoping for. So he's been really impressive. Been happy with him. Completely agree.
What's your focus with tackling in these practices early in camp where you don't take people to the ground? What are you looking for the guys to do, and how do you prepare them for games when they're going to be actually tackling in practices where you can't tackle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's certainly times that we try to simulate the contact with it, do pads and bags and things of those natures. The biggest thing this time of year, again, I talked about this a little bit in the spring, but the angles and to the ball and where our direct angle is and are we approaching our aiming point correctly is a huge point of emphasis. I kind of talk to the guys a lot of times about what a missed tackle looks like this time of year. There's plays I'll show on tape, and we'll say this is what a missed tackle looks like this time of year. It's like those cutbacks, those extended arm tackles. Like that's not what a real tackle looks like in a game. You're not just putting your arm out and making that. So don't say that's a made tackle right now. And understand that's what a missed tackle looks like this time of year. If you didn't put your body on his body and stop his momentum, you need to assume that's a missed tackle right now.
You were with Mink last year. What kind of impact are you already seeing him make, and what kind of influence does he have, not only just with the secondary, but throughout the whole defense?
Mink obviously has already shown the ability and continued to show on the side of his career that he's a really good football player, and certainly is a very instinctive player and is a very versatile player. He continues to do that. Outside of his specific on-field skills, though, Mika carries himself in a way that helps his teammates. Like, he has leadership skills that permeate throughout the building, largely just the way he approaches his work every single day, and also has the confidence and the relationship, the connectivity to be able to pull some guys aside and kind of have some one-on-one conversations. And he's not a big rah-rah guy. You guys kind of seen that already, but from Mink, I'm sure. But just the way he carries himself and the approach that he has every single day wears off on the other guys.
How has AZ Thomas progressed since when you got him?
Good. Yeah, he's obviously, didn't do a lot in the spring. So practice-wise, I was still a little bit trying to wait and see because I didn't have a good feel for that. But I've been happy with what he's done in practice so far. I think he's done a nice job in one-on-ones and all that type of things.
With Pons, how do you make sure that he's up to speed when he eventually returns, and what's he done like behind the scenes in the meeting room?
Mentally, he does a very good job, stays very engaged. Like, they do a good job. Obviously, the DB room still keeping him up with the walkthroughs and everything like that. Got the script sitting there. All right, what's this call? What's your job? What do you need to do on this one? So really trying to continue to make sure he takes those mental reps every single play. I'll try to do that when I walk by him every now and then. I'll just throw a question at him, try to catch him off guard, and it's hard to do. He's on it. He's in good shape mentally right now.
Demario Davis, we saw him as a Jet previously in his career, but now as a veteran in the linebacker room. What kind of leadership does he bring not only to the linebacker room, but to the defensive room as a whole?
Yeah, Minka, I'm sorry. Earlier I was talking about Minka and how, he's got that very much kind of leads by example and has kind of a quiet presence. Like, Double D has all those leadership skills, but he's just a more vocal body, personality type and that sort. So Double D obviously has seen a whole lot of football, has seen high levels of football, and carries himself the right way. So just the way he goes about his business, that alone, guys see that and try to emulate that. It goes a long way. But then when something doesn't look exactly like he wants, like, Double D is going to speak up and he's going to let the group know about it, and he's going to be very clear about what the expectations are for the group. And I very much appreciate that about him, and I think that's kind of how he shows his leadership.
Will McDonald was talking yesterday about dropping in the coverage. I don't think that's anything he's done here before. How difficult a skill is that for a guy who's used to going upfield?
When you're really athletic, you've been an athlete in space before, so I think certainly it's more a matter of the details of each drop on, like, where we want you necessarily. From an athleticism standpoint, he certainly is athletic enough to do that. But it's just a matter of, all right, this drop's different, and you might react to a route differently in each one. So that's more just specifics of it, but it's really just kind of getting a few reps and thought to that.
Really excited for training camp. Really excited to be in this process right now. I love where the guys are at in regards to just the mindset, how they came back from the off season, being ready to hit the ground running. The guys are really, really pushing each other right now, competing, coming to work every day, searching that 1%, getting better on a consistent basis, everything we talk about in our meetings. So really excited where the guys are at right now. In regards of our kickers, I think they've been doing a great job, especially when they first got back in training camp, hitting the ground running. A little bit of adversity yesterday, but I think at this time in training camp, that's pretty good to kind of see how they, we're excited to see how they respond and coming back on the next opportunity they have, and we'll look forward to it.
With the kicking competition, Chris, with the kicking competition, do the kicks in preseason games, do they weigh any more? Are they different than the kicks out here for you when you're evaluating that?
I won't go into too much in terms of what our process is in regards to evaluation, but all the kicks matter. All the kicks matter. There are a number of different metrics that we like to use to really get a good feel of what it is that we're looking for and who we feel like is going to put us in the best position to win.
How challenging is it to evaluate kickers when most of the kicking is not in the home stadium?
I think there's some validity to that a little bit, but at the same time, when you talk about just opportunities in general, we don't necessarily get a chance to always dictate what that's going to look like. Whether that's kicking, whether that's a four-court guy. The big thing we talk about is making the most of whatever opportunity that's presented to us, and that's what we challenge those guys to do on a consistent basis.
With the two kickers, is it one of those competitions where you sense that the guy that's the runner-up is probably going to end up kicking in the league?
Right now, in regards of how they started camp, I could definitely see that for sure. I think both of these guys are extremely talented. Both of these guys are extremely competitive. They push themselves. They push each other. So it definitely wouldn't be surprising to see both of these guys kicking in the league this year.
I think this is year 3 of the kickoff, right? The dynamic kickoff, whatever they call it, right? This year
Sure, I think so.
How much have you learned now, and how much adjustments do you make off season to kind of your approach to those kickoffs?
Definitely learned a lot, and then even when you think you've learned a lot, there's always room to learn some more. Especially now with just the new variants they added in regards to now moving another guy off the ball. So there's going to be still another year of learning, not just for me but for every team in the league. So excited for that opportunity. Excited to continue to see the potential that comes from that. So we're just making the most of that opportunity.
Better can Isaiah be?
Isaiah,
Williams?
I think he could be a lot better. I think he knows that. We know that. And it's going to come down to him being consistent and obsessive within the details, right? The things that we talk about in our room. And I love that he's embraced that challenge, and you're able to see that on a day-to-day basis with how he comes to work, the questions he asks, how he's pulling guys along as well, too. So we're excited for that continued growth in his path.
How big is it for the group that you have continuity there?
I'm sorry, one more time?
How big is it for the group that you have continuity there, not only with Isaiah in the return game, but you got Kinane back as well?
I think that's good. I think it's very valuable just in regards of like they know how we operate, right? Kind of being on the same page with our language, with some of the things that we're able to see. They're kind of able to see around some of the corners that we anticipate as well. So having that continuity and that chemistry back there with those guys, I think that's awesome for us.
Have any rookies stood out to you as having potential on teams?
I think they've all right now been doing a great job. We talk about, again, chasing that 1%, coming into work every day, putting our best foot forward, and they've been doing that on a consistent basis. And it's really cool to see the veterans kind of put them, under their arms, bring them along, try to get them on the same page of how we do things, in our room on fourth down. So I think right now all the rookies have been doing a great job of competing and coming to work every day.
With the joint practices coming up, how does that look for you from a special teams standpoint?
It's just another evaluation period, honestly. Again, we always stress just put the ball down, right? Whether we're competing against ourselves, whether we have an opportunity to compete against another team. So our mindset really doesn't change within that. It's another opportunity to get better, another opportunity to grow, and chase the 1% we keep speaking about in our room. So we're really just excited for that process as well.
Felton is a proven special teams player in this league. What have you seen from him here early in camp?
Somebody who really just leads by example in regards to just doing everything right, time in and time out. You feel his presence out there. You feel his command out there naturally. So it's really good to see what he's able to put on tape and, how he's able to kind of bring guys along with him as well, with just the standard that he holds himself to. You see a real competitive guy, right? A guy that doesn't really like to take no for an answer, and it shows on the tape. So really excited to have him. I think he's been a great addition for us so far.
How big of a loss do you think Nick Fulton was after last year?
I don't. In regards to that, I'm really more so interested in speaking on guys that are in our room right now. Really looking forward to the opportunity guys we have right now, who I spoke on earlier, who I really felt hit the ground running. So we're really looking for their improvement and just their consistent effort in terms of battling day by day.
How does Sanders' experience?
I think that's huge. You talk about a guy who's kicked in our division before, a guy who's kicked in our stadium. So a guy who's very confident in his ability and has shown time in and time out that he can get the job done. So having somebody with experience like that is something that we hold dear.
How about his experience in the division? Obviously, kicking at MetLife once a year in Buffalo and New England. Obviously, he knows the stadium in Miami. That was his home stadium. And how beneficial is that for him? Knowing the wins in the different states.
Absolutely. That's very, very beneficial, very, very valuable to him, to us as a team, right? Being able to kind of get ahead of that a little bit. So when the time comes, when the dust settles, we'll see exactly how impactful that is. But I think for any kicker in our league, the more you can know these stadiums, the more you can kind of know these win patterns in the different environments, the better it'll be for your job, honestly.
What made you and the powers that be decide to end the long snapping competition early in camp?
You say me and the powers that be. I'll leave that question to the powers that be. But I know for me, I'm just excited to work with all the guys we have an opportunity to work with in our room. Whoever is presented to me as a coach, I look forward to doing my best to get the best out of them and putting ourselves and our team in a position to win.
Well, just as far as your long snapper here, obviously you're staying with him for the time being at least. What do you like about him?
Just his consistency, his decisiveness. He's almost like a pacifier for everybody else around him in regards to how consistent and how trustworthy he is in his job assignment, and he does a great job with that. His knowledge of the game, right? He's almost made my job much easier in regards of getting ahead of how he sees things. So it's easier for me to communicate to him, communicate to the guys around him. So he's been a real good focal point for our group for sure.
How can Arian Smith build off what he saw in year one?
Again, now continue to chase that consistency, right? We talk about now him going into year two, not only continuing to improve on some of the mistakes that we had last year, but also bringing now these younger guys along with him as well too. I always challenge our guys to see not only if they can know what their job assignment is, but being able to teach others around them as well too. And he's been coming to work every day. Some of those growing pains you've seen as a rookie, when you talk about our phase, they've started to disappear slowly but surely, but there's still a lot of room for improvement, and we challenge him with that every day.
Last one, Eric. One of your former teammates, Drew Brees, is going into the Hall of Fame tomorrow. What would you tell people about playing with him, those years you spent with him?
Man, Drew has got to be the most humble individual I've been around, right? When you talk about a Hall of Fame quarterback, somebody who I knew was already going into the Hall of Fame at the time that I met him, man, like his relentless effort on a consistent basis that I was able to see day in and day out, it was really an honor. It was really, really an honor, and I'm thankful that God allowed me to have that time with him to be able to witness something like that. I think that was impactful for me as a player, impactful for me as a coach now when I'm able to try to demand some of these things from these guys because I got to see somebody live it. And this is me talking at the time that as a defensive player on the whole different side of the ball, but to be able to see his respect of the game, his respect for his teammates and those guys around him that he endeared himself to on a consistent basis, it was awesome. It was awesome. So really, really happy for Drew, much deserving for sure.